A speaker named Zig Ziglar liked golf, and he took his son to play golf with him. He's new to the game. And he was very impressed on his son's performance at the game, where he shot the ball straight for the green. And the second shot, he was right on the green, 14 feet from the cup. And he wanted his son to succeed on the game, so he studied the ball and he recommended how to take the shot. And the son followed his father's advice, and the ball went right into the cup. Then it was the father's turn, and he made it to the green in 2 shots, just like the boy. And for a moment, he considered flubbing the shot so that he would not overshadow his son. But he decided against it because it would go against everything he had taught his son about doing his best. He sank the putt easily and also birdied the hole. And as they were walking away to the next tee, the father casually asked the son, "Well, were you rooting for me on that last shot?" "Dad," the boy replied, "I always root for you." You find the best in families. It is a commitment that always seeks the best for our spouses, our children, and our parents. It's always seeking a way that they can succeed, always wanting them to get ahead and win at life. And that's the kind of commitment Yahweh wants his people to have for each other. So in Deuteronomy 6, Yahweh says to Israel, if you want your families to succeed in life, if you're truly committed to your household, then here's what you have to do. In Deuteronomy 6, verse 5, "And thou shalt love Yahweh thy Elohim with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And these words which I command thee this day shall be in thy heart. And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when you sit down in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hand, and they shall be as frontlets between thy eyes. And thou shalt write them upon the posts of thy house, and on thy gates. And it shall be when Yahweh thy Elohim shall have brought thee into thy land which he swore unto thy fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give thee great and goodly cities which you did not build, and houses full of good things which you did not fill, and wells digged which you did not dig, vineyards and olive trees which you did not plant. Thou shalt have eaten and be full. Then beware lest I forget Yahweh, which brought thee forth out of the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage. Thou shalt fear Yahweh thy Elohim, and serve him, and shalt swear by his name." Deuteronomy 6:13. This is the formula for success. Put Yahweh first in your family. Put Yahweh first in what you teach your children. Put Yahweh first in how you live your life. If you looked up every reference you could find that used the words commit, committed, or commitment, you would be surprised at what you wouldn't find. You will never find the Bible teaching that we should put our family first. In fact, Yeshua himself taught us that we dare not do that. In Matthew 10:37, Yeshua said, "He that loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And he that loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me." But wait a minute. I thought that the church would be a great place to raise my children. I thought it would be a great place to strengthen my family. I thought if I went to church, I'd have a stronger marriage. Well, yes, you would. You will have the kind of family you want only if your commitment goes to Yahweh first. In fact, you have a promise to that effect. Proverbs 16:3. Commit thy works unto Yahweh, and thy thoughts shall be established. Now, why would that be? Well, this is how it works. Yahweh knows who I'm committed to will determine who sets the rules. If I'm committed to my family first, then if they are not happy, then I won't obey Yahweh. For example, one family where little Johnny couldn't do anything wrong, and being a precious little boy, Johnny would periodically misbehave in church. One day when he was corrected for misbehaving badly in church school, the parents didn't talk to the school teacher or find out what was happening. They just simply didn't bring him back to the church. Why? Because Johnny was their priority, not Yahweh. They ended up divorcing themselves from Yahweh because little Johnny wasn't happy. If I'm committed to my family first, then I'll do what I rather than Yahweh thinks is right. It is a firm principle of believers' life. If you and I put our families first, then sooner or later Yahweh will come in second. But when I put Yahweh first, then my family will benefit, because then Yahweh will then set the rules on how I should treat my family. In 1 Peter 3 verse 7, tells the husbands to be considerate as you live with your wives. Treat them with respect as the weaker partner and heirs with you of the gracious gift of life, so that nothing will hinder your prayers. 1 Peter 3:7. Likewise, you husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together with the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered. Yahweh is saying that if we husbands mistreat our wives, he won't listen to us. He will not hear our prayers. In Ephesians 5:33, husbands are told we must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. Ephesians 5:33, nevertheless, let every one of you in particular so love his wife, even as himself, and the wife see that she reverence her husband. Wives are commanded by Yahweh to respect their husbands, to not put them down or belittle them. Ephesians 6 verse 1, children, obey your parents in Yahweh, for this is right. Honor thy father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, that it may be well with thee, and thou may live long on the earth. Now this isn't the same kind of thinking that Bill Cosby displayed when he threatened his kids, I brought you into this world, I can take you out. This is Yahweh telling our kids that if they want to survive in this world, they need to learn to honor their parents. If they don't, they will suffer and live lives that won't be what they would hope for. And fathers, I told, do not exasperate your children. Indeed, bring them up in the training and instruction of Yahweh. Ephesians 6 verse 4. And you fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of Yahweh. Notice all these are commands from Yahweh. We may not always want to do these things, but even if we don't want to do them, if Yahweh is our first priority, if we are committed to pleasing Yahweh above all else in life, then we will follow them, because this is what Yahweh wants us to do. You see, if I'm not totally committed to Yahweh, then I understand that once I become a believer, I signed my entire life over to him. I don't own anything. I don't own my home, my car, even the clothes on my back. And I don't own my wife or husband or my children. They all belong to Yahweh. And Yahweh tells me that He will hold me accountable for the things that are now His. He holds me accountable for how I treat my wife or discipline my kids. They are His, not mine. Now, that's only part of the idea of building our families on the foundation of commitment. Why is that only one part? Because what I just discussed is my part of the commitment thing. We haven't yet talked about Yahweh's part. In Psalm 37, verse 5, commit thy way unto Yahweh, trust also in Him, and He shall bring it to pass. And He shall bring forth thy righteousness as the light, and thy judgment as the noonday. In other words, you put Yahweh first, Yahweh will put you first. Now, there are people who believe the pagan concept of God helps those who help themselves. This is a false doctrine. It is not biblical. Yahweh has never said that and has never endorsed it. Yahweh does not help those who help themselves. Yahweh helps those who honor Him and put Him first in their lives. Now, I don't care if someone is a believer or not. Every parent, every child, every grandparent really want what's best for their family. Sometimes those who are not believers will do by instinct what Yahweh commands us to do as believers. Perhaps their parents modeled this lifestyle for them. Perhaps they've seen believers who've treated their families biblically and have copied that. Or perhaps they intuitively know that this is the right thing to do. So we all, believers and non-believers alike, try to make sure our family is well provided for. Our children to have the best education, the best health care, the best opportunities for a good job when they graduate. We want them to marry well. We want them to raise children and grandchildren that we will be proud of. If it's within our power, we want them to have a financial help that may need to get ahead. If it's within our power. Many families will do much of what they do within our own power. And by extension, they teach their children to rely upon their own power. One day, a small boy tried to lift a heavy stone, but couldn't budge it. His father is watching him. Finally said, "Are you using all your strength?" "Yes, I am," said the boy. "No, you're not," said the father. "You haven't asked me for help." Yahweh is saying here in Deuteronomy 6, teach your kids to ask me for help. And you will teach them this by helping them to remember that Yahweh helped you in the past. If you and I make it a constant part of my life to remember what Yahweh has done for us in the past, when we have been faced with difficulties and obstacles in our lives, we will be more inclined to look to Yahweh for help when we encounter problems the second and third and fourth time in life. And if that's true in our lives, then our kids will be more inclined to look to Yahweh when life gets difficult for them. This type of mindset should almost be missionary for us. We should be as consumed with this as we are with any other aspect of life we consider vital for the health of our family. For example, kids are still in grade school, and when they get ready for bed, mom yells up to them, "Don't forget to brush your teeth every night." And she does this. Then in the morning, the kids leave for school. She'll shout at them, "Did you remember to brush your teeth?" Every morning and every night, Mom pursues this with a missionary zeal. Why? Because she wants to make sure her kids will have the same teeth till the day they die. Likewise, we should deliberately pursue teaching our families about Yahweh's power in our lives. Years ago, Reader's Digest, one young black woman told of how her dad used to teach God's providence to his kids. She said she remembered the story from her youth. Her dad said, "Seems like some of our neighbors expect to be sharecroppers forever. But it doesn't have to be that way. Look at the boy Joseph there in the Bible." She said that then her dad wove a wondrous story about a young man thrown into a dark, slimy pit. Then he said Joseph didn't stay in that hole. Joseph expected to be a leader, not a forgotten young man at the bottom of a pit. And do you know what happened to him? One day, and then he told how God worked Joseph's life and pulled him out of that pit and raised him up to be the second most powerful man in Egypt. It was such a powerful lesson that she remembered it even when she became an adult. Deuteronomy 6 tells us we need to teach our children and our grandchildren with a missionary zeal. It should be an all-consuming passion to get our kids to know that Yahweh is good, to know that Yahweh cares, and to know that Yahweh acts in our lives. If we believe that Yahweh can act in our lives, if we're convinced that Yahweh has acted in our lives, and if we're committed to putting Yahweh as the central force in our lives, then our kids and our grandkids will pick that up. They will learn to trust in our Heavenly Father because they've seen that we have learned to trust in Him. The story is told of a stuntman who years ago pulled a tightrope across Niagara Falls, and he announced that he was going to walk across both ways, and a large crowd gathered for the event. He started across the water on a tightrope and made it to the other side, and the crowd applauded. Then he started to walk back, and he made it again, and everybody applauded. People who said it couldn't be done suddenly became believers. Then he took a wheelbarrow and walked the wheelbarrow across, and this time everyone was a believer, and the scoffers had gone home. Then he asked, "Now, before I take the wheelbarrow back, once more I'm going to ask for a volunteer. Who will ride in the wheelbarrow?" The applauding believers suddenly drew back, but one young child came forward and climbed into the wheelbarrow. And as he made his way back and forth across the falls with the young girl in the wheelbarrow, someone in the crowd asked, "How could she be so trusting of this man?" Another one in the crowd said, "Oh, didn't you know? That's his daughter. She believed it could be done because she believed in her father." Likewise, our children should know how much we're willing to trust Yahweh, because He is our Father. Yahweh bless.